All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to iPhone photography. I'm really excited about this class. We had several people ask for it during our virtual programming survey, so we're so glad to be able to offer it. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Susan Crutchfield, and I am the director of the Noonan Carnegie Library, as well as a professional photographer of over 10 years. And the evolution of the iPhone has been really wonderful, so I'm so excited to talk about it today. So what we're going to do is first I'll go through some things about general photography, and then we'll really get into the iPhone, and I plan to show you kind of hands-on how to use it. So I hope this class is really helpful. So I hope you guys are ready to learn as I am to teach you all how to use your iPhone camera, which, as I said before, is a really powerful tool. There's so much you can do with it. And as a professional photographer, I'm continually astonished with how good of photos I can take on the iPhone in comparison to even my professional camera. So I really am a huge fan of the iPhone camera. So let's talk for a little bit about general photography principles, which can apply to any type of photography you're doing, but especially works well with iPhone photography, and that's light. To me, light is one of the most important things of photography, because if you have good light, the iPhone can take amazing photos. If you have bad light, your photos aren't going to be so great. The iPhone does have a flash on it, but it's not one of the greatest flashes either. So if you have great light, you can take some amazing photos. So what I talk about light is just looking for, it doesn't have to be the brightest light. In fact, you don't want something that's really harsh, like at noontime, you'll see there's harsh shadows everywhere and the light might not really be great at that time. Window light is great if you're inside, or if you're outside, look for somewhere shady. That's usually what I suggest, because that shade light is really pretty. If you have a nice canopy of trees, it can create this really soft, beautiful light. So kind of look for the light. And the way I always say, when you go into a scene, you just kind of look around. Where is the sun if you're outside, or where are your windows or your lamps, or wherever you are, just kind of look and see, where's my best source of light? And then you might want to put, if you're photographing people or animals or food or whatever it is you're photographing with your iPhone, kind of make sure that your subject is turned towards the light. Now, if you're interested in finding out even more about light, I have done a series of photography lessons that go way into things like light, composition, and all of that. So I will send those out to everybody who's attended the class if you feel like watching them and learning more. They're specifically designed more for digital photography, but a lot of the same things apply to iPhone photography as well. Okay, and we'll move on. And like I said, I will send you those photography tips on lighting. So the next thing I want to talk about in regards to iPhone photography would be composition. Now, the composition is basically what you put in the photo. So for instance, if you're taking a photo of kids, the composition will be the subject, the background, the foreground, everything that's going to be in that photo. And you want to make sure it's a good picture. Like for instance, if you're outside, it looks really pretty to take like a photo of a child and there's green grass or beautiful fall trees. And just kind of look at what is around, what's going on, and what you really want to be in that photo. So you don't have to worry about doing things like editing it later, cropping out things that you don't really like. So that's what I always suggest you do for composition. And there's lots of other composition rules in photography that we won't be talking about today for iPhone photography. But once again, I do have that video and photography tips that I'll send you. And it kind of goes into more of like photography rules, like the rule of 3, which is still good to know for iPhone photography, but we won't be focusing on that today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the camera app on our iPhones. So I'm just going to go around and show you the different buttons, the different things that we can see on here. So right now I've pulled up the iPhone app. And if you look, this is the camera app on the iPhone, and there's actually a lot that you can do in here. So we're just going to start out with that, and then we'll talk about some additional apps later. So I'm just going to go through and show you the different functions. So we're just going to start at the top left. This is, of course, our flash button. So like I said, the iPhone does have a flash, and sometimes you might want to use it if you are in a dark room and there's no other light source. it can work in a pinch, but a lot of times it does make eyes look weird, whether it's they turn eyes red or if it's an animal yellow. So it's not the greatest flash, but it'll do in a pinch. But if you look at the top, there's 3 different flash settings. You can put it on auto, and that's where the iPhone will decide if it needs the flash. And if it does, it will automatically turn it on. If it feels like it doesn't need it, it won't go off. Or you can turn it permanently on by the on button, and that means the flash will fire every time you take a photo. Or you can turn it permanently off and only turn it on when you think you need it. I usually keep it on off and choose other methods to get a little more light in, and we'll talk about that later. But there is a flash available if you need one. The next button is going to be the live button. It's this one right here that you see I keep turning on and off. And basically this is just a special feature of the iPhone where it takes a photo that's almost like photo/video. It's a quick snippet. So if you look at a live photo, it just captures a little bit of that action. And some people like to do it to make little videos or just to see what's going on right before you take a photo. Now, if you send it to someone who doesn't have an iPhone, it's usually going to just show up as a regular photo, and you can't really see it as the live photo unless you've made a video out of it or you send it to someone else with an iPhone. But that's kind of a fun thing to do if you're interested in having a little motion in your photos. So the next button is going to be your self timer. This is a really handy tool if you want to take like a photo at a family gathering, but there's no one extra to take a photo, or you want to take a photo of yourself and no one's around if you're on vacation. This is a really great tool. You can do it for 3 seconds or 10 seconds. So really what I usually suggest you do is you just find a place to set up your phone and then decide whether you need 3 or 10 seconds. I usually do 10 seconds because 3 seconds is a little too short for me if I'm running back to get in a group and smile. So that's a really great feature for if you have no one to take your photo. Okay, and the next button on the far right is going to be your filter button. Say you are taking a photo and you just want to go ahead and slap a quick filter on it. So you can choose, if you scroll to the right, there's like dramatic filters, black and white. So if you just don't want to do any other type of editing and you want to try to find a filter, this is a great way where you can do it. And if you want to exit out of there, you would just hit the filter button again and it will take that away. So those are all the tools that is at the top of your iPhone. Okay, so now we will move on to the tools at the bottom. Now, there's several different ways that you can take photos on the iPhone. There's several different types of photos that you can use. So we're just gonna go down here to this last line and talk about a few of these. The first one is your time lapse button. Now, a time lapse is kind of neat. Basically, you would set up your phone. For this, we usually suggest you don't try to hold it, but maybe set it up on an object, or if you have a tripod of some type, because what it does is it captures like a moment in time, and it does it very fast. So if you're trying to see, let's see, what have I done? I've done some here we had Fall Art Walk last year. And for Fall Art Walk, I just set up my phone by the street and did a time lapse, and I kept it up there for maybe 10 minutes. And it made me a nice little video. It showed all the people that were, walking downtown, and it just looked really cool. So that's just something, it's fun to do that with kids, set up with kids, and then you see a video like the kids running around and getting all excited together. So I think it's just a really fun thing to do. A lot of people make videos from their iPhone, and we won't talk too much about that today, but I will go into it a little bit later. But sometimes they use a combo of time lapse and live videos and photos and videos, and it's just so fun. So there's all sorts of fun, creative things you can do with the iPhone, but that's something that I always enjoy. The next one, of course, is the regular photo button, which we've already gone over all of that, so I will skip to the next one. Portrait. Now, I have an iPhone 8 Plus, and everybody, depending on what iPhone you have, you might not have the same settings as I do. And this portrait setting is something that is only in iPhone Plus iPhones. And this was actually the last iPhone I got. I didn't know that you couldn't get the portrait mode without the Plus, and I was so disappointed when I saw that I didn't have the portrait mode, because I had heard, how wonderful it was and what gorgeous photos it took. So if you have an iPhone Plus and have the portrait mode, this is a great way to take photos. The portrait portrait mode, basically what it's doing is it's like a zoomed in lens, and it's giving you a background that's blurred, which is like a lot of photographers would take photos where they kind of try to blur out the background and really focus on your face or eyes or the object. So it's just, as long as you have plenty of light, this looks really good. And there's all sorts of things you can do in portrait mode. I normally stay on the natural light setting if you see it right here, but you can also scroll around. They have studio light, contour light, stage light, and mono light, and these all do different things. So that's a fun thing to play around with if you have portrait mode. If you don't have portrait mode, think about getting an iPhone Plus because it's so much fun. Okay, so we're going to move to the next one, and there's also a square setting on the iPhone. A lot of social media platforms such as Instagram or other social medias, their standard is the square format, so the iPhone has added this to it. It used to be you couldn't post anything on Instagram at all unless it was square, and now they let you do either way, but still they put that square one in there so you could just have that to make it easier to post photos on social media if that's the format they want them in. I really don't use this as much now since you don't really need it on Instagram, but it's nice to have it if you just want to do a square photo. There's lots of photo books too that will print out like a book for you of square photos. So it's kind of nice to have if you need it. And the next one is another one that's just kind of fun. This is Pano. So basically this takes a panorama photo. So all you do for this one is you would hold up your phone, and as you can see on the screen here, it's going to show you which direction to go in. So you hold down the button and you just pan to the right, and you've got to try to make sure you keep it as straight as possible. I'll show you what happens if you accidentally go off. You see it told me to slow down, stay straight. So it's always really interesting, and I'll show you what it looks like. So see how it basically just took a longer photo. If I had kept going around, it would have even been bigger. So this is a great thing to do if you're trying to take photos of, you know, a really pretty place outside or like in a big open field. It looks really neat. So it's just another one of those neat tools that you don't need anything but your iPhone to do. And it's just amazing. I love things like that. You can also zoom in on panoramas. If you look down here where it says 1x, if you just tap that, you can zoom in a little if you need to do that, and zoom out by hitting that again. So that's another really fun thing that's just right in there. It's native to the camera, and there's just all sorts of fun stuff you can do with the iPhone. Okay, let's go back to the photo menu, and I'm sure most of you know how to do this, but I just wanted to point this out just in case. The things that we have, there's three things we have underneath all of these different modes of taking a photo. The one on the left is going to be the last photo you took. So if you tap on that, it's going to bring up whatever it is that you took, which, as you can see, is the panorama I just took. So just wanted to show you that. And then this one, of course, the big white button is the shutter button, which is how you actually take the photo. So if you hit that button, there we go. It's going to blink really fast, and then you'll see it'll come up here. So that's the photo that I just took. So that's how you take the photo. And then on the other side is the camera turnaround on the far right side. And that's just if you want to turn your camera around. Say you want to take a selfie, you just would do that, take it, and there you go. So that's just also sometimes you can do that if you're taking a photo of your family and you've put it on timer mode. If you turn that camera around so you can actually see where everybody is, I do that a lot. So I can be like, okay, everyone's head is in the photo, everyone's in the photo, great, and you can take the photo. So that's what I enjoy it as well. When you're taking a photo, whether it's outside, inside, wherever you are, you kind of want to try to get a good exposure, which is what we call when you're getting good light and everything. So you want to get the best exposure. So say, for instance, you're taking a photo of someone against these windows that you see right here, and as you can see, they're very bright. So if a person is standing in front of them, you don't want your iPhone to take a photo based on the light coming in the window, because the person in front of it will just be completely dark. So you won't even be able to see them. So the way to do that is if you, let's see, I'm going to turn this video back on. So you would look at your screen, you would point it at whatever you're taking a picture of, and tap the screen like where their face is. If you just do that, you see how it brings up that yellow box? Well, that is showing you that that's where first of all, that's where the focus is going to be. And then second of all, that's where it's going to try to do the exposure. So if someone was against that window and you tapped their face, it was going to expose for the face instead of for the window. And there's another thing you can do. Maybe, oh, well, I did that, but the window still is too bright. This picture is too dark. What am I going to do? You can actually, within this photo app, change your exposure. So go back. Okay, so push your finger down and you see how that line comes up with the thing that looks like a sun. If you move it up or down, it's going to make it lighter. Like, see this, how it's like, oh, it's way too light. So you can then just drag it down and it'll make it darker. So that's how you would actually do the exposure. And that's a really cool thing for an iPhone, because that's something that, you know, a lot of professional cameras will do when you change the settings, but the fact that you can do it on the iPhone as well. Say, for instance, you want to take a photo of something that's kind of off to the side. Well, your iPhone's always going to try to put in focus whatever's in the middle. So maybe you're like, no, I want what's off to the side. So if you hold this down and wait till this square comes up, it'll say at the top, AEAF lock, and it's going to lock in on whatever you double tapped on. Just make sure you turn that off when you want to start using it normally again. So that is a really cool thing that it does as well. So those are, you know, two fun little things that I really enjoy about the iPhone. So another thing you can do is, if you happen to have an Apple Watch, you can also trigger your iPhone with your Apple Watch. You just would open your Apple Watch, find the camera app on there, and you can set up where it will actually show you a preview, so you can make sure everyone's in the right spot, and you just would tap a button and in 3 seconds it will take a photo. So that's another handy thing if you happen to have an Apple Watch. That's the advantage of having, you know, products that work with each other. There's all sorts of cool things you can do. Also, if you are taking photos of kids, there's also this thing called burst mode. And in order to do the burst mode, say for instance, kids are running around, or you're just trying to get one good picture of them, but they're moving around. If you want to take a bunch of pictures and then choose the best one out of there, to do that, you would hold down this photo button and see how it's taking photos. Now it's taken like 30 photos.
Hi everybody, I just wanted to insert a quick note right here. When I said the photo button, I did mean the white shutter button that's at the bottom of the screen. I wasn't sure that was completely clear, so I wanted to make sure you understood which photo button I was talking about. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled video.
And so then you're like, okay, great, surely I got one good one out of that. So you just would click on the button, and you see we took 44 photos. So you would go up into the right-hand corner where it says all photos and tap on that, and then it'll take you to your photo album, and you can see that there's multiple photos here. So you would hold down your button and then go down. Do you see where it says select at the bottom? You may not be able to see that on there, but at the very bottom it says select. And if you go through, you'll see here's all 44 of the photos, and you can select the ones that you want. Like, oh, this is a good one, this is a good one. None of these are good, of course. And then do done, and it will either keep everything or keep only 3 favorites. It'll delete the rest. That's just a fun thing to do if you are in a situation where you can't really take time to stop and pose people. So you just hold it down and it just keeps taking pictures until you release it. And then you can just pick the ones that you really like out of it. So that's another cool trick. Okay, there's also, you can go to the camera app from your phone, or if you want to take a picture quickly. Okay, so whether it's locked or open like this, the way to bring up the camera quickly is swipe from the bottom, swipe up, and you'll see it'll bring up your shortcuts. And if you look over here to the right-hand side, you'll see the camera icon. If you tap that, it'll automatically bring your camera up. So I would say I open my camera this way the majority of the time. I don't even unlock my phone. I just swipe up, tap the camera button, and I'm ready to take a photo without having to go through opening my phone or unlocking it. It's just a quick way to get to it. It should be automatically put on that shortcut list, but if you've done anything to your shortcut list and moved stuff around, you will have to go into the settings and add that back into the shortcut swipe up menu. But like I said, if you've never changed it, it should be there. So that's pretty much all I have on the actual camera. Well, I want to talk about some other apps that I use. And like I said, the iPhone app is wonderful. The actual camera app, it does so much. As you can see, it really does have a great suite of tools for just a simple camera phone, but there's also a lot of stuff you might want to do. Some of them are more advanced and some of them are not, but I'm just going to go through and show you the ones that I like to use. The first one that I will talk about is the Snapseed app. This is over here on the left-hand side. This is a free app.
Hello all, I just wanted to insert another quick note here to say that if you want any of these apps, you just go to the iPhone App Store and you can download them there. Since I did not talk about it in the class, I want to make it clear where you can get these apps. Back to our regularly scheduled video.
And this app I usually just use, oh, that's quite large of my face. Usually, let's see, I'll pull up a photo of my cat and show you what I'll do. I have 2 cats that I'm obsessed with. So this is a photo I took of him. So say I wanted to do something more fun than just take a photo, that's when I would go into Snapseed. Snapseed has like more creative tools. You can do artistic filters, and they have really great black and white filters. If I'm going to turn my photo black and white, Snapseed is usually the one I pull up. So if you look down here at the bottom, these are just different filters you can use, but what I usually use is under tools. As you can see, there are so many things you can do. Under the tune image is where you can change your exposure and contrast and all sorts of things, more than you would ever want to do. You can change your white balance, which is sometimes you take a photo and maybe you're like, ooh, this looks a little orange or it looks a little blue. That means the white balance isn't proper. And in these videos I send you that I've already done the photography tips, there is one on white balance if you're interested in learning more about it. But you can actually change your white balance in this app, which is something that normally you have to have an extra software like on your computer to do for professional photos. So this is a handy little thing. And then there's all sorts of different filters and tonal changes. But the one I really like to use is either the black and white one here, and it just turns it into black and white. And this is a really pretty black and white. Sometimes black and whites don't have this really rich color that I really like, so that's why I use this one. And so you can see there's a million different things down here that you can change it into. Some of them are super dark. Some of them, like this one is pretty. It's supposed to look like a film setting, which has a little grain. So I really do love these black and white filters, but we're gonna go back in and I'll show you another one that I really like. And that's when I really want to do something artistic, is this drama filter. I love this. So we'll either give you a really contrasty look with dark. You see how it just turned him like super dark and kind of mysterious looking. This is a great filter to use on like a stormy sky. I took a photo last Halloween here at the Carnegie, and the sky was like purple and weird looking. And I was like, oh, I got to see what it looks like with this filter on. And it looked even spookier. It looked spooky without the filter on, but really spooky with it on. And then these are just like lighter filters that kind of bring out the light. And then you can go like super dark and crazy looking. So that's always a lot of fun. This photo's a little dark for some of these filters, but it's just fun to play around with. There's like, you can give a glamorous look, you know, and see how it kind of really smooths that. So maybe you take a photo of someone and they want to smooth their skin, and you can use that. So it's just a little fun thing if you want to play around with your photos. And when you're done with a photo, you can export it and you can save it as a copy, so it will still save your original. So that's what I usually do. But that's a really fun app if you want to explore that later, and you can see all the different things that you can do in it. So another app that I really enjoy using is the Photoshop Express. Now this is a paid app. If you, for some reason, happen to have like Adobe, the Adobe Photo Bundle, they have like a Photoshop and a Lightroom. This actually, you can get it for free by just signing into your Adobe account. But if you don't have it, I want to say it might be like $5 or something. It's been a while since I've done it. But this is like pretty, you know, you can do a lot on here. You can do, you can edit by using these adjustment buttons under here. And this is where you can change your exposure by using light. You can go light, dark. If your photo didn't turn out like you wanted to, and maybe you didn't get that exposure while you were taking the photo, You can change that in here. You can add highlights, shadows, or take away, add in whites, blacks. You can change the temperature, which is the white balance. You can make it more vibrant, saturate the colors. There's all sorts of stuff you can do in here that really does match up to a lot of the Adobe products that you would use on your computer. So I really like to use these to do a quick tune-up if the photo I took didn't turn out completely right. And then there's also a heal button on here, which is nice. So say, you know, you took a picture of someone and there's like stuff on their face, or maybe someone is breaking out and they're like, I don't want you to post that picture. I don't feel like I look good. You can actually take it out with that healing brush. If you really want to go for a really advanced app, I would suggest the Camera Plus app. Now this app might look a little intimidating, but there's so much you can do with it, and it really does turn your iPhone into even more of a professional camera. So if you look at the screen here, this is almost like the button on your iPhone over here on the right-hand side. This is your zoom button. I like how it's right there on the side, and you can quickly zoom in and out. And then the button on the very bottom is your exposure button. And when I use this app, I'm usually using it as the app, and you're not actually pulling a photo in later to edit it. You're taking the actual photo in this actual app. So for instance, I'll go here and I'm like, oh no, I want to zoom in a little. And if you look closely, you can see the zoom looks really clear. It looks much better than the zoom on the iPhone native app. So that's why I really like this one. Also, maybe I was like, oh, this is kind of, it's too bright. So if you go to the left-hand side, you'll see you can turn the brightness up, or you go to the right and you can turn it down just by moving. I'm moving my thumb at the bottom of this level down here. You can also automatically zoom in and out by hitting the 2 times button. And there's all sorts of other stuff you can do in here. You can go in to all these buttons up here at the left-hand slider button, and you'll see you can turn your grid on, you can do leveling to make sure it's straight, you can do geotags. There's all sorts of stuff you can do in here. And then you can also hit this auto button, and you can see you can do portrait mode, macro mode, which is if you want to take pictures of like flowers or anything that's super small and it just is beautiful. This is actually, there's not a macro mode on your native iPhone app. You would have to add another app for that. So this is the one I use if I want to take pictures of really small things. So that's just another more advanced app. I would suggest like you would use that if you're interested in something like that, but it is more advanced. Anyone have any questions about anything, whether I've talked about it today or something that you wanted to do with the iPhone and you were never sure how to do it?
I have a question.
Yes.
Would you demonstrate the best way to take a selfie?
Sure, absolutely.
Without looking goofy?
Great question. So the art of taking a selfie is you always want to pull a selfie up above you. You don't want to take a selfie like this because we all have double chins, no matter, you know, our age or what we look like, we all have them. So if you take pictures like this, it's very unflattering. So you want to always take photos from slightly above. But to do a good selfie, I usually do this. I'll flip my camera around, and when you're looking here, you want to make sure your chin is just down just a little bit because that's the most flattering thing. And so you would pull, let's see, can you see? You can't really see my screen. Let me see. Let me turn the screen back on. Okay, so I've turned my screen and flipped it around so that you can see me like this. So I'm going to pull it up. I usually am like, oh, my hair's sticking up and my hair's so gray. I haven't got it done in a while. And I think that stuff about myself. But see how, so for instance, say you took a selfie like this. You see, I got a double chin. Everybody has a double chin. And it's just not that flattering up the nose. So you want to come up like this. And you see how it really does change how my face looks. It's so much more flattering. So pull it up above your head. And usually I kind of tuck my chin in this way, make sure the chin's not like this. And there we go. So you want to kind of get up like that, and it really does slim down your face when you do it that way. All right, well, I'm going to give you my email address in case you do have more questions. It's scrutchfield@cityofnewnan.org. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free to ask me if you have any other questions. But thanks for joining me, and have a great day.